Now, I'm not gonna lie, I've been watching a lot of Suits recently, and it reminded me of a time when I had to get a lawyer for something, but let's just say that lawyer did a lot more than I expected. And honestly, to this day, if I ever get into a lawsuit, Jelly Bean come after me. Oh, sorry, my throat, I had to clear it out. Yeah, I think I'm gonna hire that same lawyer. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name is Bubba, and welcome back to another insane story. So today's story takes place back when I was actually funny enough in high school. And in high school, I would always try to stay away from trouble, like the basic average kid not wanting to get into any beef, any drama, and all that sort of stuff. But let's just say that didn't really help out a buddy of mine, because let's just say he was going through a lot of drama. I think we all know that one friend that goes into drama no matter what, no matter the case. Either they're just really intoxicated or they just like starting drama and fiending off it. Like, we all know this person. But anyways, I remember one time in school, me and him were walking down the hallway and he was talking about some beef that he had with a girl, and apparently this girl was like someone that he full on worked with. And me, I was working at the same place as him, so me and him both knew what we were talking about, and I literally told him straight to his face, trust me bro, don't poop where you eat. What I mean by this is basically don't date people from your workplace, or don't go after people or talk to girls that are somewhere that you're always going to be at, because if something does happen that's really bad, it could cause a lot of bad things to happen. But basically, I remember after school that day, me and him, we decided to go to work. And basically me and him, we were just basically doing the thing in the kitchen that we were working at. And yes, I did work at a restaurant, but that's not the point going on. Me and him were basically working and we were just putting things away and getting things done, you know, the average worker. But then for some reason, our manager decided to come to the back and look at us, and for some reason he was feeling kind of off today, as if he was upset at us for something. I'm not sure what though. I remember I looked at my buddy and I walked up to him saying, yo bro, you didn't do anything with that girl in the front, did you? Just asking out of pure curiosity, because he's been talking about her for months, about how he wants to get with her and stuff like that. And apparently the other night he actually had a chance to get with her. But basically, I remember he ended up telling me, no bro, I didn't do anything with her, we literally did nothing. And I thought, okay, whatever, maybe he's just checking in on us and he's just upset. But then out of nowhere, I remember he ended up coming out of his office, the manager, and ended up pulling us in saying, Bubba, you come in my office right now. I remember I found it kind of odd, so I remember I ended up going into the office with my buddy and we basically sat down on his chairs. When we sat down, I remember he was talking to us saying, so I need to make you guys understand that the workplace isn't a dating place. This isn't your high school. And you guys got to understand that there are a lot of things that could cause drama and a lot of rumors going around, but this rumor specifically, I have to talk upon. And basically, what the rumor ended up being around the restaurant that me and him didn't know about really was that my buddy did the devil's tango with the girl in the front without her consent. Now, I think we all know the claim that he's basically making, but basically, my manager was claiming that this girl said that he R.I.P.E. her. I'm not going to say the word because I don't want to get demonetized, but I think we all know this is a very serious claim. If something like this does come up ever in your life, you got to understand, you got to take this very seriously, because it could take your life to a very dark direction. But I remember basically me and him, we were talking, and I looked at him when my manager said this, and I said, you did what? I remember my buddy looked at me and he's like, no, I didn't. I swear she's making up lies. And then one thing led to another. My manager decided to talk to each of us individually. So he ended up going back in the kitchen, and my manager sat down with me and said, okay, Bubba, so how good friends are you with him? I said, he's a good friend of mine. And then he ended up saying, okay, well, did anything happen when apparently they went out? Where were you at this moment? I told him I was at home playing Call of Duty because, I'm just a basic teenager. And then he ended up saying, okay, so be honest with me. Do you feel any suspicion? Do you think he could do this? And at that point, I'm not gonna lie, he was my friend and I care about him to this day, but at the same time though, I wouldn't know. That's the scary thing about people. You don't really know them until you really get to know their deepest, darkest secret. And everyone has skeletons in their closet. So me, I remember I looked at my manager and said, to be honest, I don't want to really get involved. I'm not really sure. And boy, do I regret saying that, because I remember he ended up making me stand up and basically go back to the kitchen and start working right after I answered. I guess he was upset that I didn't say yes or no, but still, I just didn't want to get involved. After 5 minutes later, I remember my buddy ended up going in there as well. And basically, my buddy, he was just yelling at the manager. It was going back and forth to the point where he ended up getting fired on the spot. No joke, he got fired. Literally, I heard him yell from the office, you're fired. What? So at that point, me hearing that, I remember I'm just doing my job as serious as I can, making it look like I'm not part of this at all. But one thing led to another. I remember later throughout the night, I was putting away plates and I had to go to the front to do that. And the girl that was making these claims were basically staring me down the entire time when I was putting plates away in the front. And my manager, when he came out to the front and saw me out there putting away plates and looking at this girl staring me down, he basically got really upset with me. I remember he instantly said, okay, Bubba, to my office. And basically one thing led to another. I also got fired. Now, I know for a fact this was not fair. This was not fair at all. It's not fair for someone just to basically put their drama onto me. So I remember I ended up going home that day early. My mom ended up realizing that and came up to me saying, Bubba, why are you off work? And I explained to her how I basically got fired because my friend had an allegation of him doing the RA D-R-A-P-E. I don't know. I don't like using that word. I remember my mom was really upset about this, and she ended up actually deciding to call up a lawyer because it's not fair for me to get fired off someone else's problem. And the lawyer she ended up calling up was someone that we randomly just found online, to be honest. I think like it was a government issue lawyer. I'm not really sure. And I remember 2 days later, I was explaining to my friend the situation that happened, and he also got really upset that I got fired. And he basically ended up calling a lawyer for himself because, you know, it's a very serious allegation. So of course he's going to call up a lawyer to see if he can really prove that he's not guilty or guilty, one or the other. I'm not really sure. And as for me, well, I got one for my workplace and basically suing my workplace because it's not fair for me to get fired off someone else's drama. But basically one thing led to another, and this is where things get really spicy. I remember I had my first meeting with my lawyer. I ended up going to this really nice office building that was actually pretty nice in my city, and basically when I walked inside, I saw her. Now at first I didn't really realize much about her, but then I really looked at her, and I'm not gonna lie, you know that feeling when you look at a girl and she just gets cuter and cuter? Yeah, that was this lawyer. So I remember I was staring at her and kind of amazed by her and just kind of like, how you doing? You know what I mean? Like I started like kind of being flirtatious with her as a joke at first, I won't lie, but I guess my lawyer took it like seriously, and I'm not gonna lie, she ended up talking to me saying, okay Bubba, so we're gonna be suing your workplace, but it's very interesting how you said that they brought the drama onto you. What was this about? And I basically had to explain this whole situation, but as I was explaining it, I'm not gonna lie, the whole time I was just staring at her cherries, bro. Like I couldn't literally look at anywhere else. Like if you're wearing that much of a push-up bra, expect me to look. And basically, I'm not gonna lie, she ended up coming really close to me. I ended up smelling her perfume, and that's when I said, oh, like you smell really good. I remember my lawyer looked at me, and I don't really know why, but I guess, you know, she felt something, or she just kind of smirked or something. I have no idea. It was really awkward, and she decided to literally just kiss me. My lawyer literally ended up kissing me at the office building. Now, me knowing this, I was very shocked. I was like, okay, that's really interesting. And basically from there, she ended up saying, okay, you know what? And she ended up standing up and saying this. Okay, I think that's enough for the day. Next time we meet, we'll meet at my place, at my house. And yeah, let's just see what happens from there. Wait, what is what I said? I was very confused, but then she ended up giving me her address, and let's just say I do go see the lawyer the next time. The real question is, what happens next time I go see her was very interesting, and I'm not sure if it was even legal for a lawyer to do this. But anyways, guys, that's basically it for today's story. Make sure you guys do leave a like and subscribe if you guys want the next part of this. And like I always say, fall for more embarrassing stories. All right, peace out, guys. Okay, so many of you guys wanted the next part of this story, and honestly, I don't blame you. A lot of people want to know what happened between me and my lawyer, and I'm just gonna tell you guys straight up, it is very sus. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to another insane story. So today's story takes place back, like I said earlier, when I was in high school. I had to hire a lawyer because I got into some legal trouble with a workplace that I was at, and well, let's just say one thing led to another. If you haven't seen part one, all I'm gonna say is that we basically ended up kissing. Yes, I actually kissed my lawyer. I don't know what to think of that, but to be honest, it's pretty weird. Going on from there though, I remember basically what ended up happening was, since my lawyer had all the information she needed, she ended up actually, funny enough, messaging me the next day. She ended up messaging me, oh, like, okay, so next time we meet up, we're gonna meet up back at my place, which is pretty odd because like, I don't know how many lawyers invite you to their own home, but at the same time though, I wasn't really comfortable with it. Me thinking I should bring a parent along like I did the first time would be a good idea, but at the same time though, she kept telling me, your lawsuit's confidential, so like you can't really just tell anyone, including your parents. So I was kind of weirded out, but obviously since I was in legal trouble, I needed to actually make sure that I went to go and talk to this lawyer. I ended up the next day actually getting everything together and basically going to go see the lawyer. Before my parents dropped me off though, they ended up asking me, Bubba, do you not want us to come with you? I ended up saying no, like it's gonna be okay, like don't worry about it, when in reality, to be honest, I didn't really know what to do. Anyways, I ended up walking up to the doorstep to my lawyer's house, and when I looked at her house, she lived in a really good home. Like no joke, she had a really nice big house. And basically I ended up going inside her house, and she opened the door for me, of course, and when she saw me enter in, she was looking at my butt. Yes, very odd of this lawyer to do, but yeah, basically she was staring at my peach, and I have no idea why. To be honest, like I said earlier, I was only in high school. I didn't really have much developed, I guess, in some way, but it was pretty weird. Going on from there though, I remember she offered me to sit in her living room, and that's what I did. I just sat there looking around the place thinking, wow, lawyers make a lot of good money. But for me, watching Suits a lot, I guess that's kind of just expected from a lawyer. Anyways, as I was looking around, one thing I realized is that there was a family photo. Now, this is not my first time, you know, doing it with a mother, but that's a story for another time. But like I said earlier, I saw a family photo, and when I walked up to it, I was taking a closer look. And as I was looking at it, I remember the lawyer ended up coming up behind me saying, oh, like, don't worry about that. That's my, like, ex-husband. Ex-husband is what I said. And when I looked at her hand, I realized her ring was still on. I ended up pointing out the ring saying, but you still wear your ring even though he's your ex-husband? She looked at me in kind of like a panic, and she's like, oh, like, no, that's not the case at all. Like, I think you're just confused. Anyways, let's get straight to your court case. And then basically me and her, we ended up sitting down. When we sat down, I remember I was going through everything with her, basically just, you know, trying to tell her the whole story, basically how it's not my fault I got fired when it's someone else's problem and all this stuff. If you guys didn't understand what happened, just go watch part 1, like I said earlier. And basically, she ended up looking at me saying, okay, so basically what we can do is we can just say they fired you over slander. And going on, I just want to know, what's your shoe size? Wait, what is what I said? She wanted to know my shoe size for some reason, and I was really weirded out. But I ended up telling her I was a 9.5, and then she looked at me saying, oh, so like, you know, you have decent sized feet. Wait, what? Is what I said. I was so confused, but honestly, I kind of just let it go. And then I remember when I was writing down some things on a piece of paper for like my statement that I wanted to tell, she ended up putting her hand on my hand and made it kind of like look like a romantic scene from a movie. I didn't know what to think. So I remember I looked at her saying, okay, yo, you need to calm down. Like, seriously, like we shouldn't do this again. I remember she looked at me and she's like, wait, why? Like, are you like embarrassed of me or something? And then I looked at her and literally told her to her face, you are my lawyer. She kind of looked at me awkwardly. And to be honest, I think that was kind of like a major turnoff for her. So she ended up just not saying anything and just doing her job, which I mean is a good thing, but at the same time kind of awkward. Anyways, from there, I remember basically I kept writing out my statement that I need to finish, and then she ended up going upstairs. She went upstairs and left me alone in her dining room table, which is kind of awkward, but at the same time, I guess it makes sense, you know, privacy. And then right at that moment, I remember I get a text from my mom saying, oh, like, is everything going good, Baba? I told her everything was going just fine and how I'm just, you know, finishing up everything and stuff like that and how I'm almost done. But then I remember at that moment, the lawyer ended up coming downstairs, except she was wearing something a bit more, how do I put this? Too much. I remember I was looking at her and I was staring at her cherries, and I'm not gonna lie, I did get bricked up. So me being bricked up in her dining room table and me knowing that she wants me, I didn't really know what to do. So I remember I looked at her and said, okay, like, listen, I don't know what you're trying to do. And then right at that moment, smack. She ended up kissing me right away, and me dropping my pencil on the ground, I was like really shook. She realized I was like, you know, bricked up, and she ended up grabbing my eggplant. And yes, one thing I will say is that me and her, we ended up actually going up to the bedroom and we ended up doing the devil's tango. Yes, I literally did it with my lawyer. Don't get me wrong, I was super embarrassed and weirded out from it, but at the same time though, I didn't really think anymore, because you know, when your hormones take over, and me being a dumb teenager, let's just say I ended up basically thinking with my eggplant more than with my actual brain. Going on from there though, I remember that entire thing happened, and she looked at me very awkwardly afterwards, and she's like, okay, now that that's out of my system, let's go back to work. We ended up going back downstairs, and me, as I'm putting on my pants again, someone knocks on the door. I didn't know who it was, so I remember I decided to walk down the stairs and answer the door for her. And when I did, instantly I recognized the kid from a family photo. It was her son. Now, me thinking no one else lived in that house was basically a wrong idea, and I ended up saying, oh, like, hey, your mom's helping me out with like work and stuff for a lawsuit I have. And then I remember the kid just looked at me kind of oddly and saying, aren't you like a teenager? I remember I ended up like basically explaining my situation, and he ended up laughing, and funny enough, me and him got along. But as me and him got along, I remember his mom ended up basically walking up to the son saying, oh, like, weren't you supposed to be in college? Like, what's going on? Oh, I got off early is what he said afterwards. And I remember he ended up walking away. But as he was walking away, one thing he realized is that he ended up going to the bathroom upstairs, and he saw that there was a condom, or a rubber, I should say, in the bathroom trash can. And let's just say he ended up coming downstairs saying, Mom, can I talk to you? Him and his mom, aka my lawyer, ended up going back upstairs, and me, I'm just writing my statement as fast as I can to get out of that place. But then let's just say the guy ended up coming back downstairs, looking at me and saying, I think you should leave. I ended up standing up, putting on my backpack and saying, okay, that's fine with me. And I ended up actually just leaving the door. And once I left and walked out the door, all I heard was yelling. And one of the things he ended up saying was, I can't believe you do this to Dad again. Oh, snap. Honestly, I had no idea what was going on in that house, nor did I want to know. So I remember I ended up just calling my mom saying, hey mom, can you like come pick me up? And basically she ended up coming down, picking me up, and I went straight home. When I got home, my mom was asking me questions like how was everything and stuff. And one thing she actually mentioned was, Bubba, why is your hair so messy? No reason is what I ended up telling her. And yeah, let's just say the next time in this story, when I have to go actually to the courtroom with this lawyer, her son ended up showing up and things got really, really bad. But we'll save that for another time. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. And like I always say, follow for more embarrassing stories. Peace out, guys. guys. Okay, finally, you guys wanted it, and I'll give it to you guys. The final part of me and my lawyer. Many of you guys wanted this final part, and I wasn't really sure why, because most of you guys just want to hear the part where I just do the Devil's Tango and move on. But apparently, you guys wanted more than that. So obviously, I'm gonna give the final part. But before I do, make sure you guys do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Seriously, it means a lot when you guys do. And on top of that, I love you guys so much. Thank you for all the support in the last couple videos. Now let's get straight into this insane story. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to another insane story. So if you guys didn't see the last two parts of me and my lawyer, I highly advise you guys go check it out, because then this story won't really make sense. But basically, last where we left off, let's just say I ended up doing the Devil's Tango with my lawyer, and she had a family. Obviously, for some reason, her and her husband were having family issues, but I remember her son ended up basically walking in, and he didn't see us doing the Devil's Tango, but he realized that something was up with his mom and me, and let's just say things got really bad. I remember after when I left the house of basically my lawyer, that same day when I ended up doing the Devil's Tango with her, I knew something was off. I knew I was gonna get in trouble in some sort of way. Either she was gonna call my parents, or even maybe for some reason her son might even call my parents. But one thing I made sure of is that there is no way my parents could find out. I remember when I was in the car on the way back home, my mom did ask me, Bubba, why is your hair all messy? But I didn't answer. Obviously, I'm not gonna tell her, oh yeah, you know, I did the Devil's Tango with my lawyer. Obviously, bro. Like, I can't say that to my mom. So I remember I basically was silent the whole entire ride and just thinking about my court case that I had to explain to the lawyer why I got fired from my job originally. I remember the next day, I ended up waking up to a text message. I woke up looking at my phone in bed, and I saw that the lawyer ended up texting me saying, okay, so like, honestly, no one can find out what we did. My son is suspicious, but he doesn't know exactly what happened. Which, knowing this, I mean, that's good, but at the same time, really awkward. I did mention and text her afterwards, did he see the condoms though? And I remember the lawyer ended up saying, yeah, I basically did tell him that I was cheating, but I told him it was with someone else, not you, and he won't believe it's you because you're really young. I mean, hopefully, is what I said afterwards. But then for some reason, I remember something just didn't sit right with my stomach. You guys know that feeling when you're just like kind of just relaxing, or for example, you're just kind of doing your own thing until you realize something feels off and you start getting that rolling stomach feeling? Well, that's basically what I had that morning, and I didn't know what was up, but I remember I ended up getting up anyway and going upstairs for breakfast. I remember when I went up there, my mom ended up seeing me saying, oh, Bubba, is everything okay? Are you gonna go see your lawyer today? Because your court case is literally tomorrow. I ended up telling her that, yeah, I'm gonna go see her, but I'm not gonna see her at her house nor at her office. Apparently, the lawyer wants to meet in public. My mom found that really weird how she wanted to meet me in public instead of her house instead, but she didn't really care. As long as my case was handled properly, she doesn't really mind. So I remember basically that same day, I ended up going back into my room and basically ended up texting the lawyer to meet me at like a coffee shop or some sort of public place that I can meet up with her just to finish the rest of the work. I remember she agreed, and she basically ended up giving me an address to the local coffee shop that was near my town. I remember I ended up getting my things, getting ready, and started heading over there. Except this time, I didn't go with my mom. I actually ended up riding my bike all the way there because I don't want my mom questioning anything else weird. I remember when I started riding my bike, it was around like 5 p.m. and it was after school. I was riding my BMX bike all the way down until I realized something was off. I remember when I was riding my bike, I had someone following me in a blue car. Now, I didn't recognize this blue car, but I do remember seeing it one time in my lawyer's driveway. So me thinking this was my lawyer, I decided to slow down to kind of like see if it was her. So I remember I ended up kind of pulling to the side of the road and biking slower. And basically when I saw this guy drive by, it was my lawyer's son. Now this is where I get really worried because I'm thinking, why would he come to this meeting? What is going on? So I remember instead, I decided to actually turn around. There was no way I wanted to run into my lawyer's son again after what ended up happening last time. So I ended up turning my bike around, and as I was biking back to my house, I ended up texting her saying, yeah, listen, I saw your son on the way to the same place I was, and I don't think I should be going there. I remember she ended up texting me back saying, what? Why would he? Why is he watching me? This is so weird. But then I ended up telling her, listen, we can finish the final part of work at my place. Just come over to my place instead. She was okay with that, and I remember she ended up texting me saying, okay, I'll be there like 9 o'clock. I said all right, and I ended up going home and basically just playing video games to pass the time. As I was playing video games though, I remember I was thinking in my head that something might go off. You know that feeling where you could tell the future? Well, I was having one of those moments, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm not that so Raven in any way, shape, or form, but I felt like I was seeing the future, and I knew something was gonna go wrong, but I didn't know when. I remember that same night around 9 p.m., my lawyer ended up coming to the door. She ended up being there, and I ended up going upstairs, letting her in, and we actually ended up finishing the paperwork. Now, obviously, me and her, we were doing the paperwork, we did all that stuff, and everything seemed normal. No, she wasn't hitting on me. No, she wasn't doing anything with me. me. And no, we did not go to my room and do the devil's tango. To be honest, we kept things very professional. Well, because my parents were home. There was no way this woman was just gonna grab my eggplant out of nowhere, okay? It just wouldn't make sense. I will say this much though, there was some pretty awkward eye contact in some moments. Anyways, after everything was over, I remember I ended up letting her out the door and I stood in front of my front porch to watch her go into her car and leave. But one thing I found very odd is that once she ended up leaving, there was a blue car literally right behind her, driving literally right as she left. And this blue car was the same one I recognized from when I was riding my bike earlier. And me knowing this, I remember I texted her right away saying, I think your son knows that you came to my house. She ended up telling me not to worry about anything and just focus on the court case for tomorrow. So that's what we ended up doing. I remember the next day, I ended up basically getting my suit on and basically going with my parents to the courtroom. We ended up getting there pretty early because my court case was at 8:30 a.m. and it sucked. Waking up early was something I never enjoyed doing, but since I had to skip school for this, I wasn't complaining that much. Anyways, our court case started and basically my lawyer was sitting down beside me as basically she was explaining what ended up happening with the workplace and basically why I got fired. And as the judge was hearing my lawyer out, as I was sitting on the stand telling the God honest truth that I didn't do anything with my friend and his relationship or whatever you want to call that serious thing, I remember out of nowhere, the door opens at the very back. The door opens and I ended up seeing my lawyer's son just walk in saying, "You did my mom." I remember when he walked in saying that, I panicked. I remember I had the most scared look on my face and I'm like, And then afterwards, he ended up coming to the front saying, "Mom, you literally ended up doing that kid?" I remember I looked at my lawyer thinking, oh God, this is not going to be good. And basically my lawyer ended up pulling him out of the room and basically explained everything. At that point though, I remember as we were waiting for my lawyer to come back from talking to her son, the judge did look at me and say, "Did you end up doing your lawyer?" Can I get off the stand? Is what I ended up saying afterwards. Because obviously if you guys know the rules of court, you can't lie on the stand. I remember she ended up looking at me kind of disgusted, but at that point I didn't know what was going to happen. But one thing led to another. My lawyer ended up coming back and basically explained the rest of the story, and luckily my story did align and I basically ended up suing the company for a decent amount of money. And by a decent amount, I mean like $5,000 and a paycheck that I was owed. If you guys want to know more about that situation, just watch part 1. But anyways, I remember afterwards I ended up basically going back to the courtroom and basically started leaving. I was leaving with my parents and I remember my dad ended up grabbing my shoulder saying, "Baba, you got a lot of explaining to do." Okay, is what I ended up telling him. And basically on the whole car ride home, I had to explain everything. And when we got home, I ended up losing my Xbox and basically not allowed to play video games for an entire month. Man, honestly, it sucks. An entire month without video games? That's so unfair. Like, she wanted it. Anyways, guys, that is basically it for today's story. Make sure you guys do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And like I always say, for more embarrassing stories, peace out, guys.